Hi, welcome to this episode of the Concerned Citizens Forum. I'm Dick Celtica, your host. As those of you who have watched this program before, this program was developed and designed to allow taxpayers of North Attleboro to have a more active role, a more active voice in overseeing the town leaders in North Attleboro, the town manager, as well as the town council and the various boards, basically just to give us a little better oversight, a little better monitoring of what they're doing so that we can render our comments, our suggestions, our criticisms, if we have any, letting the town leaders know where we feel things ought to be done differently, or in a way that they may help to make us feel better about how our taxpayer money is being spent. Money for all of us, I'm sure, is not unlimited, and we want to make sure that we get the greatest amount of mileage out of every dollar, as I'm sure that's what the town manager, Mike Borg, is attempting to do as well. Occasionally, as I mentioned, we will have Mike Borg on as a guest because I can't go with a one-way show and just keep passing comments off to Mike without asking him to comment on them. Mike again has agreed to take some time in this very busy time of the year for him to be a guest today on the show, and he's going to be addressing 2 or 3, possibly 4 concerns, depending on how much time we have left. Again, just as a quick reminder, the Concerned Citizens Forum is a taxpayer-driven show, which means we need your input. If there's something that you feel strongly about, that you feel that would be an improvement in the town or something for Mike Borg to consider, then we want to make sure we pass that on to Mike. He is our town manager, and he has told me before he welcomes any suggestions that anybody might have to give him some food for thought. So for those that do have something to say, keep it professional, but if you have something to say, you can contact the Concerned Citizens Forum show one of 2 ways. You can send your comments in to me at the Concerned Citizens Forum at yahoo.com. If you choose to send your comment to me by email, or if you're uncomfortable with computers and technology, you can forward your comments to me via first-class mail to North TV, attention, the Concerned Citizens Forum, 93 South Washington Street, North Attleboro, Massachusetts, 02760. So that's a couple of ways to send your comments in to me. I will discuss the comments on the air with all of the viewers with complete anonymity. Nobody will know where the comment is coming from other than myself. So if you're a little apprehensive about sending your comments in, don't worry about it. The only one who's going to ever know who the comment came from is myself, and I will be telling nobody. So once we discuss your comment on the air, I'll forward those comments on to Mike Borg for his response, his resolution, his comments, at which point he'll show up on the show because he's told me he'll do that anytime he's invited. So again, today we have Mike Borg as the town manager in North Attleboro as a guest, and he is going to be addressing some of the previously forwarded comments that he has received from you. Welcome to the show again, Mike. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to show up and address some of the concerns that I have passed on to you in the past.
Absolutely, appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity, the invite to come in, and I think this is important business for the town.
Good. Well, again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I did pass on several taxpayer comments quite a while back. We only get together once every several weeks, so it may take time for us to hook up and have you address the comments, but there are 3 or 4 that I would like to have you address today that I had asked you to prepare for. The fact that you're here tells me you're prepared.
Absolutely.
And why don't we get right in, because we've only got
Sure.
a half an hour. I'd like to cover as much as we can.
Sure.
The first taxpayer comment is an article that was regarding the Lake Como Adamsdale section of town. Let me just quickly read the comment that came in from the taxpayer, and then you can address the taxpayer's concerns.
Sure.
As one of a number of resident taxpayers living in the Lake Como Adamsdale section of town, I would like to know why this area in the south end of town has been neglected for so many years when it comes to road repairs needed and the unsafe water supply system serving this area. Specifically, the poor road conditions related to May Street have been reported through the Click Fix online site many times over the past few years. The response we continue to get is that May Street is scheduled to be repaired and or repaved, and yet nothing ever happens. We just get lip service. The manhole covers continue to sink deeper. The road condition is similar to driving over a washboard, where the paving is sinking in certain areas, and what has been poorly patched in the past continues to further deteriorate. The bridge on Mendon Road is sorely in need of repair, and the bridge on Cushman Road probably needs replacing. Heather Street is full of potholes, and the storm drains on England Road continue to sink deeper below the surface of the road each year. The water supply system servicing this area has at best received only occasional quick fixes, and some of the piping still being used is from the original installation, which made use of asbestos piping, material which has been deemed to be unsafe and potentially toxic to the residents of this neighborhood. In fact, the water system is in such a state of disrepair that many times residents are without water for lengthy periods of time. I read articles in the local newspaper where North Attleboro town officials have the funds to provide artificial turf, new lighting, and bleachers for the local schools, yet the unsafe, hazardous road conditions and water supply system in the Lake Como Adamsdale section of town continues to be ignored. Mr. Celtica, I'm hoping that through your new watchdog program, you might be able to persuade our town officials to finally address the issues in this section of North Attleboro, issues that have been disregarded for far too long. I turn it over to you, Mike.
Oh, thank you. So there's a lot in that one
Yes, there
question.
is.
So let me try and break it down the best that I can and give responses to everything, and hopefully that'll be satisfactory to the listener and the author of this particular question. So I met with and had a long discussion with the Public Works Director, Mr. Mark Hollowell, and asked him, about this issue when I received it from you. We broke it down, and he laid out the plan to me that the water main in this part of town will be replaced this coming spring and summer. So that's going to happen. That's in the works. It's going to happen. So that, I believe, will address many of the water issues that are being brought up by this particular resident and address those. But it also, we have to address the paving in that area as well. Because the water main is going in, it wouldn't be prudent to go in and do a mill and overlay or repave that road and then come right behind it, rip the road up, and put into effect a new water main system. So working with all utilities, I think, is an important component of Public Works before they go in and do a major repair. So the water main will go in first. That's happening this coming spring, and then we'll repave the road following that, and then put a 5-year moratorium on any road opening on all the new paving that goes into place. So what we're trying to do is make sure that, one, we're addressing the issue of the water main that gets done, but also the roads, but we have to do it in that order first. And then two, once that new pavement is laid down, there's a moratorium for opening, so somebody can't just come in and say, all right, hey, I got to replace X, Y, or Z, and tear open the road, because the residents and taxpayers put a lot of money into repaving that road. So we want to protect it for as long as we can. So we coordinate with all the utilities, we get all of that done beforehand, and then we'll repave the road. But, and I think in this question, it's also a good opportunity to talk how we look at roads in general in town as well. For example, I know that the Public Works Director uses a pavement condition index, PCI, and rates all the roads throughout town and gives it a certain number on a scale of 1 to 100. 100 being perfect, brand new paved road, right? Anything under 70, usually you like to have it. That's when you got to schedule it for repair and maintenance. So I know Mark has that. I know that what I've asked him to do, because I want to make sure that we have a more transparent, more open government, by saying, here are the roads we're going to be paving next summer. If a resident wants to go and look on the town website, on our online services, you'll find a link to the capital improvements program. Click on that link, it'll open up in a new window, and you'll see all of our capital improvements projects that are ongoing. Go to the highway section tab, right? You'll click on that, and the Public Works Director has put on this slide, right, this part of the webpage, all the roads that are going to be repaved in the coming year. So if you want to know if your road's going to be paved next year, go click on that, right? You'll see the status of that particular project if your street's on it. And then you can expect that that road will get repaved. He also has one for sewer and water main as well, for any place that we're going to replace that. The other part of this is potholes, right? Now, look, I'm sensitive to this as well, because I've been a Public Works Director before, and here in New England, it's tough. You get that freeze and thaw cycle in roads, and every time the plows go over the road, and anytime there's a crack, it just intensifies it. We want to be responsive to our residents. So if you see a pothole or you see something that needs to repair, you contact you, right? But also, you can call Public Works directly. You can get on See-Click Fix, right? You can call Town Hall and put in the request to have that pothole fixed, and we'll get it to Public Works.
This resident, I guess, has attempted to report on whatever that site was.
The See-Click Fix.
Yeah, and it didn't have much luck.
Well, I mean, so I'd like the resident to know that we're listening, right, and we're going to respond, and we make it a priority. So, but potholes in particular, in the winter months, the asphalt plants tend to close. So there's not hot asphalt that's available all the time. There are some places that are still open, and we try, and Mark, I know, works with them and gets enough hot mix to last for a week on the days that they're open. And I know the highway team goes out on Thursdays to fix potholes. So if you can get us a pothole in before Thursday of the week, I'll make sure that they get it and can respond to it. The reason that hot mix asphalt is important is this. If you're able to put the hot mix into the pothole, it's a permanent repair, right? They'll come in, they'll roll it, they'll stomp it, they'll press it out, they'll get the like the jackhammer press and push it down,
right,
and it'll be a permanent repair. If we can't use that hot mix asphalt, we have to use a thing called cold patch. Cold patch is temporary. We could put it in there today, and with the traffic, it's just going to smush right out, and it just pulls it right out. Exactly. And so we're backfilling the same pothole again 3 days later. So our preference is to use the hot mix on that pothole, and then fill those and make permanent pothole restorations if we can. But look, absolutely, if you see a pothole, if there's, reach out to us, however you can. We'll make it a priority to get it, because that actually does protect the road. Because if we can prevent that pothole from becoming larger and larger and larger, it saves the town money.
Well, it gets to the point between the potholes and the sunken manhole covers. It's pretty dangerous on some of these roads.
And over time, as you get settling, you see that those manhole covers, right, and they will sink into the ground, right? So, and we've got to do some repairs. There's some great new technologies that are actually coming out where they can put in these rings that absorb some of the cushion, but then
Spacers.
and spacers, right, that really come back and raise the level up of the that manhole cover so it's flush with the surface, so you don't get that thump every time you drive over it. Let's go to the last part of that question, bridges, because this is also another one. And they mentioned two specific bridges in this particular, they mentioned the Minden Road and the Cushman Bridge.
Right.
First, let me talk about the Chestnut Street Bridge.
Okay.
Because we're under construction with that one right now, right? So we're looking to have that bridge back up and available to cross sometime late in January. Very responsive vendor, contractor, builder on this one, working very hard, overcoming a couple issues that they're going through now. But we expect probably by the end of January, we're hopeful, right? And again, that's weather dependent. So,
Yeah.
but so far we're pretty close to the schedule that we'd set out. So Chestnuts, but we do order the bridges that we replace because bridges are not inexpensive. These are millions, multi-million-dollar projects, even for a small span like on Chestnut. We look at the Cushman Bridge right now and the Minden Road Bridge, and they're both slated for repairs. We have prioritized the Cushman Street Bridge over the Minden Road Bridge because what the engineers are telling us is that the Cushman Street Bridge probably needs to be repaired first ahead of the Minden Road one. But we're also working with the state, and here's the important part of this. The state has a transportation infrastructure program, TIP, right? And this TIP is where they put all the infrastructure projects on it and they list it by priority and where the state is going to give funding. So what we're doing is we're working with the state to include both the Cushman and the Minden Road Bridge onto that TIP so we can get dollars from the Commonwealth to help pay for those repairs. These would be very expensive items for the town itself to shoulder. You know, again, multi-million-dollar projects that will take a lot of time. So we're always monitoring the safety of those bridges and making sure, and they're completely safe to drive. There are sometimes you'll see restrictions that put on those bridges, right? We might reduce the access to it to one lane or such, but that's always monitored to make sure it's, and if it was unsafe, we'd close it. Okay. We would absolutely close it. So there would be no doubt. But the important part about working with the state is getting them to help pay for that bridge, right? And relieving the taxpayers here because all the dollars, the federal dollars that get put into maintaining those bridges, we want to tap into and make sure that, you know, we're not asking the resident to put every dollar into that bridge. I think part of our job is to seek out aggressively every funding opportunity that we possibly can to take advantage. So we're putting those two bridges up for submission to be included on the TIP. If they're tucked into it, they'll be given a priority and a time when they will do it, and then that's hopefully the best way. But if we have to, we're prepared to. If it becomes a critical event, we may move forward and figure out alternative funding method, finding other venues to do it. So bridges are a great question. I thought this was a great, it talked everything from roads to water to snow to those bridges. So thanks to that, and I'm looking forward to making sure all these projects get
so
to
then
completion.
basically the bridges have been identified as an issue that needs to be addressed, and the water system is going to be addressed this coming spring 21. And as soon as that's done, then the repaving of the road will take place?
That's correct. Yeah, I would think that the repaving you should see within 18 months, right? Provided there aren't any significant delays, that road, after the water main's put in, total project complete with water main and repaving, 18 months or less. Okay,
all right. Well, there you go. There's several answers to a very lengthy taxpayer comment. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that very much. Let's go on to the second thing I've asked you to address. There's a new subdivision in town, Joe Marie Estates subdivision. I must admit I live in that neighborhood, so full disclosure. The taxpayer's comment is there is a new subdivision entitled Joe Marie Estates that has recently been developed within the parameters of the Edgewood Drive neighborhood, just off Reservoir Street in the south end of town. The street that provides access to the residents of Joe Marie Estates is called Maddie Lane. With the addition of Maddie Lane, this intersection has now become a four-way intersection comprised of Colgate Road, Maddie Lane, and John F. Mason Road. 7 new construction homes have been built on Maddie Lane with an addition of 14 children under the age of 15. These children ride their bikes, motorized toys, rollerblade through the intersection where stop signs are not installed, which endangers the safety of these children. The next closest four-way intersection, which is a stone's throw away, does have a four-way stop sign setup installed. Any assistance your program might provide in getting stop signs installed as quickly as possible for the safety of North Attleboro's children would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Again, I live in that neighborhood, and since I presented that taxpayer concern to yourself, okay, 2 stop signs have been installed. All right. These kids, because I see them every day, they go flying through the intersection.
Right.
Unfortunately, Mike, the residents in that area have become accustomed to no stop sign at that section, and Colgate Road has become somewhat of a speedway. And I just would, I can't tell you how I'd feel if something should happen to one of these kids, because they just fly right through the intersection riding their bikes. So it's really incumbent on the drivers who have gotten used to using Colgate Road as a speedway. Okay, so I'll leave it with you to address.
All right, Dick, another great question. I brought this one both to, again, Public Works Director and our planning team in Town Hall as well to take it, because I think there's still some final acceptance for that subdivision to be included and accepted by the town. And that's ongoing, and I have no issues or concerns with that. But look, one of my concerns in town always is speeding, right? And we've had several residents actually reach out to me on speeding and just confirm absolutely in the same tone and tenor and importance that you did. So speeding is something that I work very closely with both Public Works and the police department. So we're looking at a myriad of different potential responses. Signage is one of them that you can take into account. There's also a thing called the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So there's a federal document that specifies what the requirements are to put in a four-way stop sign, to put in a traffic signal, certain traffic volumes and different things that were taken into that calculus that would revolve counts. The one thing that we could do right away, and we did, which was put in the 2 stop signs. We didn't meet all of the requirements for a 4-way stop, but we did for a 2-way. But I would just ask those parents, again, in that neighborhood, please just, work with your kids that, when you're out, follow the traffic rules. Even if you're on a bicycle, you still got to, follow traffic rules and put that in place. But we were able to put that 2-way stop in and take a look at it. So, but if it needs further examination, if that doesn't entirely solve the problem, we'll take a look at it. But again, I want to go back to speeding for a second, because speeding is something I think that, in town, it's come up more than once. And I've always been an advocate of, well, you're never going to write enough tickets from the police to stop it, because people are still going to do it. I could have the Public Works folks put in, sign every, 30 feet with the speed limit, and all that's going to do is create a different kind of sign pollution, right? We could actually do a couple things with pavement markings that are being done now to either, put in the fog lines to tighten up the lanes, because when you have traffic that's closer together, people tend to slow down. We're looking at that on Adamsdale Road, and they've just done some repainting of the fog lines on Adamsdale Road as a result of the complaints, and we did have an accident and an injury and a death over there. But the last one I think is probably the most important is behavior. How do we change behavior? I'd hate to put in speed bumps and ask the Public Works Director to put in speed bumps every, block. Because, I just think that's like the last resort we should do for speeding. And, I hear a lot of times, on the cut-through streets, it's people from Rhode Island coming in in using, you know, our roads and,
Right.
and not listening, you know, and that's part of it. But I've also heard from the police that when they go out and do enforcement and they do write the tickets, a majority of the people that get the tickets are the residents in that neighborhood.
The thing is, with this particular neighborhood, the stop signs were put up not on the Colgate Road side, okay?
Right.
Because several residents in the past have requested stop signs there. Again, it's become a speedway, and they put in at one point a speed limit sign went up for 30 miles an hour. If it's 30, they're going to go 40. If
yeah.
it's 20, they'll slow down to 30 anyway. You know,
Right.
30 in this neighborhood is just it's like a speedway, okay, and they exceed that to begin with.
Right.
So again, it's the Colgate Road that has no signage to have the people stop, and yet the next intersection down, which is not more than maybe 100 feet, okay, there's four stop signs.
Okay.
I just really don't want to see any kids
No,
get hurt.
you're
Okay.
right. So what I'll do is I'll go back and work with both police and Public Works and look at the placement of those signs. Maybe it's better or supportable by putting it onto the different side and looking at how that potentially can impact it. So we'll take a look at it. But we did get 2 signs up there.
2 are up, yes.
Yeah, and address that. So I think it's something worth looking at because safety, you know, if it's something that we can do on our side to make someplace safer,
Yeah.
that's an easy thing for us to do.
Great. Well, it looks like we only got to cover 2 because we're just about out of time, Mike, but hopefully you'll come back again so we can discuss others, okay?
You bet.
The first one we had was lengthy, but there was a lot in it, and,
was.
and I think it was well worth addressing. We're out of time for this episode of the Concerned Citizens Forum. Again, Mike, thank you very much for taking the time to come down as a guest and address taxpayers' concerns. Once again, thank you for joining us. If you have any comments you'd like to send in, again you can send them in to the Concerned Citizens Forum at yahoo.com via email, or you can mail them to North TV. Attention to Concerned Citizens Forum, 93 South Washington Street, North Attleboro, Massachusetts, 02760. So once again, I'd like to thank Mike for being a guest today. I'd like to thank all of you for attending this episode, and continue to send your information into me so that we can again talk to Mike about these issues that are important to us. Without your input, a lot of things aren't going to get done, so you're needed. Once again, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you next time. Have a good day.